Hey everybody. So this week's Parsha, Parshat Ve'etchanan, is a continuation of Moshe's speech that he gives to Klal Yisrael, that he gives to the Jewish people before he passes away. All of Devarim, pretty much. All of the final fifth book of the five books of Moses, Deuteronomy, Devarim, is basically this huge speech that he gives to them. And one of the things that he says in this week's Parsha, he says, Lo tunasu et Hashem Elokeichem, you should not test God. Ka'asher nisitim b'maseh, the way you tested him in Maseh. Don't test him. What does that mean? So what happened at Maseh? Maseh was where they had trouble finding water, and they asked, is God amongst us or not? They were testing God. Is he really having a relationship with us? But the Rabbeinu Bachya gives us an interesting take on what it means to test God. He says, a person should not have the following attitude. Avod Hashem, I'm going to serve God. He shouldn't say, I'm going to serve God, and I'll see. Im yatzlichu inyanai ba'avodato. I'll see if I'm successful, if there's a payoff over here. I'll serve God and I'll kind of check it out. I'm in the testing mode here. He says, no, that's not the way you go about it. However, what should you do? La'avdo avodah shlema me'ahava. You got to serve God. You got to do his mitzvahs out of a avodah shlema, a complete service, me'ahava, out of love. Basically what he's saying, you got to go all in. You can't be wondering and doubtful, and I'll do this if there's a payoff, then I'm in. Now, we know in life, it doesn't work that way. You can't go in with this if there's going to be this immediate payoff, then I'll continue doing it. You take a guy and he says, I went to the gym and, I didn't lose any weight. Now I don't feel any better, so I'm not going to do that anymore. That guy's a fool. We recognize that guy's a fool. Life does not work that way. My tennis coach, he said if I would just follow through and go over my shoulder, then I'd have a much better forehand. Well, I tried that a couple times and the ball went out, so I'm not going to listen to him. Life does not work that way. You don't have an immediate payoff. Not in terms of business, not in terms of relationship, not in terms of anything, and certainly not in terms of doing God's mitzvot, is there going to be, boom, a reward right then and there, instantaneous. So don't test God in that respect, that you're going to do mitzvot and expect an immediate payoff. However, there is one exception. There is one exception according to Jewish tradition, and this is the Tzedaka challenge. The Tzedaka challenge. You see, when it comes to giving Tzedaka, it says in the Torah, aser ta'aser, you should certainly tithe. It does this double language. And the Jewish tradition, the rabbis tell us that we make a play on the word ta'aser, we change the sin to a shin. It says aser ta'ashir. You should give 10% that you become wealthy. You become wealthy by giving Tzedaka. And according to tradition, it says, when you give Tzedaka, you can expect a payoff. You're going to see that money come back to you. That's what Jewish tradition says. That it's the one exception to this not testing God, it's going to come back to you. Because let's face it, God controls the universe. He has many, many, many different ways of getting that money back to you if you give tzedakah. Your stock might go up. Something will come in, a gift or whatever. And plenty people who give tzedakah regularly, they have all kinds of stories of how that money gets back to them. We just recently had our fundraiser, and this is just an example of that money shows up where you don't know how. So we recently had our annual fundraiser. Someone pledged $7,000. Beautiful, wonderful, so generous. Then she comes in and she gives me a check for $9,000, $2,000 more than she pledged. And the next day, a guy who pledged $2,000 gives me a check for $2,500. So not only was that a wonderful gift from these people, but there was another additional $2,500 that came out of nowhere. But it's not out of nowhere. We know it's all from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's all from Hashem. So again, Hashem has a lot of ways to get you that money back. And that's the guarantee, if you will, the exception to the rule of where you do a mitzvah and you will see the reward. Not in the next world, in this world, and pretty soon afterwards. That's the tzedakah challenge. Don't do this with tefillin. Don't do this with keeping Shabbat. Don't do this with keeping kosher or any other mitzvot. You can't expect an immediate payoff. And as we know, life doesn't generally work that way. But the one exception, Tzedaka challenge, is you'll see a payoff. Try it out. Let me know how it goes. Have a good Shabbat.